In the second video of session A, what is value betting, I want to just have a look at the overview of this free training course that we have created. So we have 6 sessions in this training course. Hopefully, if you're, interested in some but not others, that means you can just skip over certain parts. If you want to watch it all, I think each video is between about 15 and 30 minutes long. So that gives you an idea of how much content is available here. And I tried to structure this training course so that you could sort of get an idea of what it is that professional bettors, that advantage players, that value bettors are doing to turn a profit. Now, not every professional bettor is the same. You will have those with connections to horse racing who have an edge in horse racing markets due to that particular connection. You will have those that have very unique mathematical solutions to perhaps some problems out there that will be targeting secondary markets or tertiary markets out there. And there will, of course, be multi-million pound big syndicates that are shaping the Champions League match odds on the exchange, maybe odds compilers, people like this. But generally, once you've separated yourself away from them, you have this subset of advantage players, value bettors that are all kind of doing the same thing. Now, the one thing that we're not covering here and we're not involved with at all is anything involving hedging, any arbitrage, any matched betting, any hedging. There's a particular reason for that. If you look at the size of the community of people involved in arbitrage and hedging, it's out of control. And the unfortunate truth for those people that they are in a world of diminishing returns. In fact, the services that promote and offer tools for arbitrage, for hedging, for match betting seem to be getting more expensive, whilst the net value for any subscriber to those communities is diminishing. So you're getting less for more. And it's something that it's very important to separate ourselves away from because longevity in that domain is limited at best. So we don't cover anything to do with arbitrage and hedging across any of these training courses. If you did want to get involved with it, the one thing I would say is that perhaps there is merit to building a bankroll using those services. And you may learn a little bit about decimal odds, about the exchange. And it's often a progression for a lot of people that have that as a background. They move into value betting, into advantage play. It's by no means absolutely necessary. In fact, a lot of the times it can cause issues because people come at the course or at the domain expecting a little bit of an easier ride, less bumpy. But regardless, that is why those subjects are not covered in this training course. What is covered? Well, session A, of course, you've just looked at a video about how much is possible to make. This is the course overview. And then just after this, we will be looking at just who I am and who we are at Bookie Bashing and explaining some of the terms. Now, in terms of who we are at Bookie Bashing, I want to sort of make it important. This isn't intended to be a sales pitch for Bookie Bashing, this course. I do jump in and out of a lot of the tools, a lot of the trackers we have at Bookie Bashing, but that's merely because these are the tools and trackers that I and many of our community members use. It's not impossible to develop some of these yourself or to sort of take slightly different approaches to some of the problem solving that we've done. And for that reason, this course has been aimed really at anybody that wants to learn about advantage play and value betting, at least from the perspective of what the majority are doing. And yes, Bookie Bashing is involved. No, there's no expectancy to sign up as a result of watching this course. If you would like to, you're more than welcome to. But you could easily watch all of the videos in this course and decide that either it isn't for you, but it was an interesting learning experience, or it is for you, but you don't need Bookie Bashing. You're going to go and do it yourself, all of which is perfectly fine. So I just wanted to sort of explain that whilst Bookie Bashing is involved in this because I own Bookie Bashing, I run Bookie Bashing, my community is Bookie Bashing, and the tools and the trackers that I use exist on there. That doesn't mean that it is absolute prerequisite. There's a lot of people, plenty of people, advantage players, value bettors, that are sort of churning an income without the use of the tools, the trackers and the calculators that we have. So with that in mind, this training course is divided into 6 sessions. The first one is this kind of introductory session where we're dipping our feet into it. The second one looks at probably the most important components of professional betting, of advantage play, of value betting, and that is bankroll management and variance. This is very important because of 2 issues. One, you may not have enough to start out with. There is a minimum amount, and certainly at Bookie Bashing we've had people join with, for example, £200. Well, I'm afraid, just honestly, £200 isn't enough. And if that's the level that you're betting at, it's probably better to go and do other things or raise a bankroll somewhere else. So first of all, we need to look at bankroll management and how we assign that management to different pots, and more importantly, in fact, how we deal with it psychologically, because there's a lot of psychological management involved in professional betting and value betting. Also variance. The 2 things are actually intertwined. You see, once we understand variance, we understand how much we can stake. If we're staking £50 per bet, we probably are going to have a risk of bust under a bankroll of X, and that's going to be better than under a bankroll of Y. And those components in professional betting are extremely important. You don't need to worry about them when what you're doing is risk-free, but they are the most important thing. There isn't a professional bettor I've met that hasn't worried or mentioned, I don't know if I'm staking high enough. You know, if you go through a winning run and you look back and you go, that was good, but why wasn't I on those bets for twice as much? The answer should be some sort of understanding, variance, bankroll management. We can then look into staking plans and look into how much is necessary in a bankroll for value betting, for bankroll management. A little bit of a spoiler, it isn't £200. It's a little bit more than that. Okay? In session C, some betting edges. So we split this into 5. There are certainly more betting edges out there. But when we started our journey at Bookie Bashing of what it was that we were going to look at, we identified 5 areas that we thought that we could target specifically. And these 5 areas are each way betting, pricing, markets up from first principles, steamers, biased markets, and concessions. Session D looks at a very, very common question, and that is, what if I'm restricted? Chances are you've experienced a bookmaker restriction. Almost all winning punters have, quite a lot of losing punters have. Is the environment, the domain, is the reality of betting with bookmakers in 2023 the fact that we have to deal with restrictions? Yes. Does this bring an end to the game for a lot of people? I'm afraid it does, but it doesn't have to. In fact, we have to deal with them as a fact of life. And so we've got a whole training course session tailored to a discussion around restrictions, why they happen is the first video. And then we discuss online soft bookmakers, why they restrict, and perhaps some strategies and circumventing them. And then how shops fit into this equation. And then how betting exchanges fit into the equation. Session E looks at Bookie Bashing. It looks at the trackers, the tools, the hubs, the education, the clinics, and the professional team around it, and exactly what those services, those trackers are doing, how they're calculating what they're calculating. And look, if you want to see what we're doing and try and replicate yourself outside of Bookie Bashing, it's a really good window into the kind of things people are doing to determine and find value in sports betting in 2020, 21, 22, 23. Also the tools that we use, the calculators that we are using to benchmark equity and to find value. And finally, in session F, how long will this last? You could argue maybe this will last as long as the length of a piece of string, but there's certainly different strategies that can be used. There's low-hanging fruit that can be picked off if we just wanted to dip our toes into advantage play value betting for a short period of time. There's maximizing the longevity of getting on if the game that we're playing is actually to profit in a little bit of the longer term. And we finish the course in session F with a video on the necessity to adapt and change and have that flexibility in your mindset in advantage value betting. So that is how we are going to break down the 6 sessions of the free training course.